Everyone, welcome to the parsha class from BRI and of course Yeshiva Deborah Shimon. And it's a beautiful, beautiful parsha. I welcome everybody, all our listeners, especially all of our listeners that are connected with BRI, and of course the Holy Yeshiva, Reb Mordechai Groner. Baruch Hashem. Continue being Marbitz Torah with a lot of siyata d'shmaya. Okay, it's Parshat BeShalach. Wow. Oh, wow. This, where do we begin? Where do we begin in this beautiful, beautiful parsha? So we left Mitzrayim last week. Of course, we left Mitzrayim with Makas B'chayros, and Paro sent us out. And we were traveling in the desert for 3 days. And then it says they came to Paro to tell Paro that we left. Question: Who came to tell Paro? Let me ask you a question. This was only 3 days ago. So if it was only 3 days ago, and they left, and Paro sent us out, so what's the chiddush? Reb Nossan. Listen to what Reb Nossan says. It's one of my favorite pieces from Reb Nossan, really. It's so beautiful the way he explains it. Listen. While we were in Mitzrayim, and the Makkah happened, the first Makkah dam. So came the Amalekim, and they went to the Bechorei Mitzrayim, the firstborns of Mitzrayim. Now, why did they go to the firstborns of Mitzrayim? Very simple. The firstborns of Mitzrayim were the advisors to Paro. They were the upper echelon of the Egyptian people, and they went to entice them to go to Paro, to tell them, no, don't let them go. And they did this every time, through all the Makkahs. Yeah, of course, when it came to Makkahs, Choshech, right before they would say Paro, they were like, hey, well, what's going on? But it worked. So what does Hashem do? Hashem says, I'm going to make Makas B'chayros. It's interesting. Why did he pick the B'chayrim? He could have picked the youngest one. He could have picked the middle child. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu choose the B'chayrim? So says Reb Nossan, because the Amalekim had a hold on the B'chayrim. So if I get rid of the B'chayrim, so then Amalek has no one to do their dirty work for them. So comes along Amalek now to Paro and says to Paro, hey, Paro, you let them go. Why? They did the same tactic to Paro that they did to the B'chayrim before HaKadosh Baruch Hu smote all the B'chayrim. So now they come to Paro and they tell Paro this information. And Paro says, you're right. You're right. But Paro had a problem. We know that in the Makkahs, when it came to the Makkah of Barad, all the animals and the things, they all died. They didn't have anything left. And where did he get them animals from? Well, the Medrash says he went to all his neighboring countries, and he said to them, listen, guys, come with me, and I'll split the booty with you. And he got horses from them. Chariots they had chariots. and they started to chase after the Jewish people. And let's discuss the Yalkut Shemoni. The Yalkut explains that Hashem commanded the Klal Yisrael to turn back towards Mitzrayim at Pi HaChiros. Why? To trick Parai. See, if we were going straight, then Parai would think that we know where we're going, but he tells us to turn around to think that Parai should think we don't know where we're going. When Parai's scouts saw that the Yidden were returning, they reported that Klal Yisrael are lost in the Midbar. We're lost in the desert. The Torah mentions that there was the idol of Baal Tzifon. The Yalkut explains, the Yalkut Shemoni, beautiful parish, that only one Egyptian idol, the Baal Tzifon, was left standing, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu let this idol stay. Why? So that way Pari would believe that his God, Pari would believe that his God was blocking Klal Yisrael in the desert to not be able to go, and therefore they're turning back. And this lured Parai into a sense of false security. So Parai mobilizes his army, like we said. And Parai didn't just send, his police force. He didn't send, his regular army. But it says what Parai did was he emptied Mitzrayim's military might. He took everything. All that military power he took with them. Look at this. The Yalkut explains this, it was a massive force. The Torah tells us that he took 600 of the choicest chariots. These were from the elite guard. And then it says he took all the chariots of Mitzrayim. Every chariot, every vehicle that they had, they seized and they took it with them. Then you had the officers. Each chariot had 2 or 3 soldiers in it. 1 to drive and 2 to fight. Some Medrashim say, brings the Yalkut, suggests that the army this was an army of millions of infantrymen and specialized horsemen, special people they took, to ensure not a single Jew would escape. Their goal was, like when Amalek came to tell Parai that, you let them go, what was their goal? Their goal was now to recapture all of the Jewish slaves. But now look what Parai did. Parai was so motivated for this. So what he did was, usually a king will stay back. A king doesn't go to fight. The king stays back in the comfort, he sends his men out. The Yalkut Shemoni explains that Parai personally harnessed his own chariot. He wanted this so badly. He wanted to inspire his men. He promised his soldiers, and all of those people that gave him horses. I'll divide the booty with you. Remember, the Jewish people emptied out Mitzrayim from their gold and silver. I'll split it with you. Very unusual. Since when does a king split the booty of a battle? This was Paro. The speed of the chase. 3 days, like we said. The Yidden had traveled 3 days and they had a head start. However, the Yalkut Shemoni notes that the Mitzrayim's army covered the distance in 1 day. What took the Yidden 3 days to walk. Of course, they took their horses and their chariots and they did it in 1 day. There was a sight of dust. When the Yidden looked back, they didn't just see a few soldiers. They saw the horizon filled with pillars of dust, kicked up by the Egyptian cavalry. Could you imagine? You have 600 choice chariots drawn by these powerful horses, and they're galloping. Could you imagine how much dust it was? That dust cloud that was there? Amazing. I'm just thinking about that. So the Yalkut explains that Piachira means the mouth of freedom, but also the mouth of holes. The Yidden were trapped between the sea in front of them, the mountains filled with wild animals on the sides, and the Egyptians from behind. We had nowhere to go. We had a defensive cloud. What was the cloud? The Anania covered. As the Egyptians drew near, the Anania covered moved from the front of the Jewish camp to the rear of the camp. The Anania covered was what was guiding us. When we saw the Anania covered traveling, we knew we traveled and we went in the way of the Anania covered. So it was ahead of us. But now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put the Anania covered behind us. Why? Because the Egyptians were sending arrows and they were shooting pellets and rocks, boulders at Klal Yisrael. So the Anania covered would absorb it. Absorb all of the things that they were shooting at us. It acted as a shield. There was the darkness. The cloud projected darkness towards the Egyptians, while the pillar of fire, we had the Anania, there was the Aish, the beautiful Aish HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us at night. The pillar of fire gave light to Klal Yisrael. The Egyptians, the Mitzrayim, were literally stuck in the night that wouldn't end. While Klal Yisrael, we were preparing for the miracle of all miracles. Why did the Egyptians run? Let me ask you something. The sea splits. We're going to discuss that in a minute. We went into the sea. What mad men think that they can also be saved and go through the sea? It's not a common thing that seas split. So why were they so foolish to follow us into the sea? The Yalkut Shemoni again says HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardened his heart again. HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardened Paro's heart. And the Egyptians were so blinded by their hatred and their desire for their stolen gold that they didn't even realize they were entering the seabed until the water was already towering over them. They didn't even realize. They were just so involved, they wanted their money back. There was a deception. The Yalkut records that Hashem made the seabed look like a beautiful paved royal highway to the Egyptians, enticing them to charge forward at full speed. Oh, we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it for us like it was shayish, it was marble, beautiful flooring. To them, it looked like it was a road, a beautiful road. The pillar of the Hananiah covered was our original Iron Dome, right? It was the original Iron Dome, intercepting every one of the Egyptians' missiles. Unbelievable. All the things we have today, we really experienced back then. We know that all the Goliases are compared to Mitzrayim, right? All the Goliaths, all the time we're in exile, all the exiles are compared to Mitzrayim. And you see today we have the technology we have today, but today it's only almost as good as the Hananiah covered. Okay, let's discuss now the splitting of the sea. The Medrash portrays the splitting of the sea as not a single event, but a series of 10 distinct miracles. The Zohar and BeShalach and the Pirkei Rabbi Elazar explain that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he made a contract with the sea. The sea only agreed to be created on the condition that it would split for Klal Yisrael thousands of years later. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a contract with the sea. When Moshe stood before the water, the sea initially refused to move, saying, "I'm older and larger than you." Moshe had to show the sea the coffin of Yosef, who fled from the sin, causing the sea to flee. It had to submit to Yosef HaTzadik. Unreal, beautiful. The 12 paths. There were 12 paths, 12 tribes, 12 paths in the sea. Instead of one big opening, the sea split into 12 separate lanes, one for each of the Shvatim. The walls were made of a crystal clear material, often described as solidified ice. Some kind of an ice. It was beautiful. So that each Shevet could see the other Shvatim in the other lanes, ensuring that they didn't feel alone. So look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave each Shevet their own lane, so they would realize that each Shevet is so significant by them on their own, but they're only significant if they're all together. So every Shevet was able to still see every Shevet, even though they were traveling in their own lane, but they were able to see everybody else, connecting everybody together within Achdus. It's a beautiful idea, always to have an Achdus, always to be Achdus. We need unity. Okay. There were fruit trees, the Medrash says, and there were sweet things to prevent the children from crying during the frightening this frightening trek. The seabed sprouted fruit trees, and the salty waters turned into sweet drinking water for the journey. The beautiful miracles HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us to show us that He loves us. He just told us when we were in Mitzrayim, B'ni b'chayri Yisrael. B'ni b'chayri Yisrael. And here HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing us, Kindlech, I love you. Look, when did you ever see a tree growing from the bed of the sea? When did you see a tree growing? If you wanted an apple, you wanted a peach, you wanted a pear, you wanted a plum, you wanted grapes, a date, a fig, whenever you had it. Amazing. All because HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. The famous Medrash and the Mechilta says, a simple maidservant at Kriyas Yamsuf was able to see what the great Navi Yecheskel ben Buzi saw with the Ma'aseh Merkava. One of the greatest prophecies ever. The Navi Yecheskel, one of the greatest prophecies ever. He was able to see it. They were a maidservant. It was HaKadosh Baruch Hu was so clear to us. Let's discuss for a minute now. Let's discuss for a minute now. Let's go over the rest of the things of the sea. All right, we have so much material. I don't know. We'll get to more of it. Okay, the soils of the sea. Why would the army bring their gold, whatever they had, and their jewels, and decorate the chariots with all of their ornaments and all the beautiful gold and things that they had reserved? Why? So the Yalkut explains that the Egyptians were so confident in their victory that they decorated their horses with trappings of gold, silver, and precious stones. The royal treasury. Paroi, in his great gaiva, his arrogance, brought the Egyptian national treasury with him on his chariot, intending to show the Israelites, Klal Yisrael, exactly what they were missing by leaving. See? You left. Look what we have. Look what we actually had in Mitzrayim. The diamonds in the sand. They were cast ashore. After Mitzrayim, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu drowned the Mitzrayim at the sea. Did not keep their bodies. The Yalkut says that the sea spat the bodies and their treasures onto the shore. The Yalkut so goes on to say that every single Jew, even the poorest among them, collected enough gold and jewels from the shore to last for generations. It is said that the wealth gathered at the sea was 4 times greater than what they took out of Mitzrayim originally. So it said that V'yinatzlu Mitzrayim, we emptied out Mitzrayim, but we only emptied out the Mitzrayim on some level. But we took now 4 times more. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah says, led the Jewish people. You have to force them to move. You know, the wealth is a trap. The Yalkut Shemoni explains that the Yidden was so busy collecting diamonds and gold from the sand that they didn't want to continue into the desert. They didn't want to go back into the Midbar. Moshe had to physically pull them away, reminded them that their true destination was Har Sinai, not the gold and silver. Today, unfortunately, some of us get so carried away with our work. We get so carried away with the pursuit of wealth We don't have time to learn. Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us over here, teaches us the Yalkut Shemoni, that you have to understand that the purpose in life is to learn Torah. Of course you have to make money, but don't ever let making money take over the fact that you need to always be koveya itim b'Torah every day. Right? That's a very important lesson. I hope everyone understands that, because it's very, 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 it's very, very important to understand. So let's understand now a few things. Let's see here. Okay, so then right after we came out of the Kriyas Yamsov, we sang Oz Yoshir. What Chazal say about Oz Yoshir, it's incredible. If you need a Yeshua in your life, if you need a salvation, try every morning when you say Oz Yoshir, say Oz Yoshir with a great level of joy. A great level of joy. Look what we could learn from Paroi. Let's go back to Paroi. 2 lessons we're going to learn from Paroi now. When Yosef HaTzadik introduced to Paroi, after his dream, when he introduced to Paroi this idea that the 7 cows is the 7 years of plenty, and the 7 scrawny cows are the 7 years of famine, Paroi said, wow. He believed in the tzaddik. He believed in Yosef HaTzadik. He had emunah in the tzaddik. And because of that, Mitzrayim was saved from the famine. Any of the Mitzrayim that didn't have emunah in what Yosef HaTzadik had said, and they were just doing it because they wanted to do it, not because this is what the tzaddik said, their grain all spoiled. It went to waste. However, Paroi that believed in Yosef HaTzadik, his grain was okay. There are those that say that the wealth of Mitzrayim came because of Yosef. All over the world they came and they brought their money and their gold and their silver in order to get grain that Yosef had came up with the idea and made storehouses. So if you're thinking that the wealth that we took from the Mitzrayim, what did we do? It wasn't right. What do you mean it wasn't right? They only had it because of Yosef HaTzadik. And why did they have it? Because of Yosef HaTzadik? Because Paroi believed in the tzaddik. How much more if a Paroi can believe in the tzaddik, how much should we believe in our tzaddikim? And hence, we say every day in the Shemoni Esrei, Misham u'miftach la tzaddikim. We have the brach in Shemoni Esrei, la tzaddikim ve'ala chasidim. Ve'al ziknei she'esamchu be'esov al pleitos be'sefreya. Right? Misham miftach la tzaddikim. We have to believe in the tzaddikim. It also says that Paroi went after the Klal Yisrael. He went after Klal Yisrael, chasing after them. Why? What was Paroi doing? He was chasing them. He was so tzishmeted. He got 10 plagues. The Mitzrayim was destroyed. And he's running after them with a vigor. Where did he get that from? To teach every single yid. If you got knocked down by the Yetzer Hara again and again and again, learn from Paroi. Get up and travel. And go. You can. Learn lessons from Paroi. Let me tell you something amazing. There's a clay yucker on this parsha. To me, it's mamish amazing. We say every morning Vayosh Hashem, we end off, Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdai. Oz Yoshir Moshe v'nei Yisrael. What does that mean? Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdai. Says the Klei Yakar, an amazing thing. Listen, please, listen to this. These words are mamash amazing. You say these words every day. We're going to have new understanding what these words mean. The Klei Yakar explains that there were some Jews that were the jokesters, the jokesters. And the jokesters would say to Klal Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu is good, great. But he has that stick. That stick, his staff. Remember, he did the tricks with it, with Paro, right? There's tricks. He did the stick. And then every time there was a market, he picked up the stick. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's good, but he knows how to use his stick. He has the stick. Maybe if I had the stick, I could do the same thing. So says the Yalkut Shemoni, an amazing thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, when it comes to the Yam Suf, pick up your hands. Put down your stick. And the Teyas Yodcha. Pick up your hands. Pick up your hands. Why? Listen. We just described that Mitzrayim was chasing after them from the back. In front of them, there was the sea. On the right and the left of them was the forest with wild animals. They couldn't go. Where do you think the Jewish people, what do you think they were doing? They were looking at Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, Moshe, what are you going to do now? Moshe, what are you going to do now? So they expected Moshe to pick up his stick and do some miracle with his stick. Hashem says, no. No, Hiram Esmatcha. Put your stick down, says the Klei Yakar. Hiram, put down the stick. Normally, Hiram means to lift up, but he says no. Hiram in this case means to put it down. Uneteyas yotchem, pick up your hands. And why? In Mitzrayim, when the miracles were happening, the Mitzrayim kept saying, Etzba Elikim hi. Etzba. A finger. A finger. A finger is like a stick. Right? A vav, a finger, stick. When it comes to the Yam Suf, Hashem says, I say, Yada Gedoyla Asher Asa b'Mitzrayim. A hand. So now listen to this. All of those guys that were thinking that Moshe Rabbeinu was only great because of the stick saw the greatest miracle, and we acquired the greatest wealth through Moshe Rabbeinu putting down the stick and picking up his hands. Hence, says the Klei Yakar, Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdai. Okay, we believed in Hashem. Yes. But we didn't necessarily believe in the tzaddik. But now we believed in the tzaddik. Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdai. Oz Yoshia. So how was the song sung? How did they sing this song? So the Medrash discusses how 2 million people were able to sing the exact same words in perfect harmony and unison without any rehearsal. It's amazing. Rabbi Akiva says that Moshe would say a line, and I will sing to the Lord. Az Yoshe Moshe Bnei Yisrael. And the people would respond to his line. Rabbi Eliezer says that the people repeated the end of every phrase. However, most mystical view is that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, sang through their throats. They all became a single mouth. Unbelievable. The Shekhinah was in the Goren, in the throat of every single Yid, giving them the words to say. Remember, every word that we say is really Hashem's words anyway. What can we do ourselves? It's all Me'ez Hashem. It's all Me'ez Hashem. We have to always remember that. It's always Me'ez Hashem. Everything that we do. This teaches us that. How did 2 million people say the same song? They know the same words. The Shekhinah was in their throats. Telling them what word, giving them the words to say. Amazing. The Medrash says that even the fetuses in the mother's wombs sang the song with them. The Malachim in Shemayim were jealous. The ministering angels in Shemayim, the Malachim in Shemayim wanted to sing first, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them, no. Klal Yisrael is singing now, they go first. He silenced all of the Malachim just to hear the words of Klal Yisrael. Similarly to the Pesach night, we know the Zayah tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls the whole Pamal Yishamala, all the heavenly, celestial being, everything, come and let's listen to what Klal Yisrael is doing. Look at the Seder. Look what they're saying. Beautiful. That's in Shemais Rabbah. When we were singing the song and we said Zek Keli v'Amei, Zek Keli, this is our God. They said Zek Keli. They weren't speaking in a metaphorical expression at all. The Medrash says they literally pointed their fingers, even like we said that the Shivcha, the simplest of the people, saw a vision that even Yecheskel ben Buzi couldn't see. There's a parable. A king's son who was kidnapped, when his father, the king, came to rescue him, the son recognized him immediately. Even in disguise, at the sea, Klal Yisrael recognized Hashem because they had felt His presence throughout the Makkahs in Mitzrayim. We know that after we sang Az Yashir, so Miriam went out with the other women and their tambourines, and they also said Shira. The Medrash asks, where did they get tambourines from? They're in the middle of the desert. Where would they have tambourines? The Medrash says that the Nashim Sidkaniyos were so certain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to save them and perform miracles. They packed with them musical instruments. So they took in their knapsacks. That they took along their tambourines. They were in anticipation of the miracles that Hashem would do for them. Unbelievable. The Tanchuma says that. Miriam led the Nashim Tzidkaniyos in a separate song. The Medrash notes that she used the same words as Moshe, but added the beat of the drum to elevate the joy, representing the extra measure of the Nashim Tzidkaniyos that they have, and the women have during the exile. And that's this says by the Yalkut Shemoni. Now look at this, the earth's refusal. When the song says the earth swallowed them, right? Referring to the Egyptians. The Medrash notes that the earth was afraid to swallow them. The earth argued, if Hashem punished a generation of the flood, and the generation of the Tower of Babel. What will happen to me if I swallow these people? Hashem had to swear, he made an oath, he made a shvuah to the earth. It would not be punished for what they're doing if the earth accepts their bodies. They said there was about 9 million people dead. 9 million. 9 million. Unbelievable. The wall of fire. As they sang, a wall of fire stood between them and Klal Yisrael and the Egyptians. The Medrash describes the Egyptians shooting arrows and stones, but the cloud of glory caught them, protecting the singers while they focused on their praise. Unbelievable. We say that Hashem is Ish Milchama. The Medrash struggles with the description of Hashem as a man of war. What does it mean Hashem's a man of war? Hashem Ish Milchama. It explains that HaKadosh Baruch Hu appeared to them at the Yam Suf as a young warrior. But when it came to Har Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to them as an old, wise teacher to show them Hashem's image. The image of Hashem changes based on the needs of the people, though his essence remains one, says the Mechilta. So in other words, but when it came to Kriyas Yamsuf, HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to them as a young warrior. When it came to Har Sinai, he came to them as a Zaken Ragel. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu will change, says the Mechilta, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu will change to what we need. The horses and the riders, the Medrash says, that when Hashem threw Mitzrayim into the Yam Suf, he performed a double nace, a double miracle. He bound the rider to the horse so they could not be separated, and they were tossed up and down like peas in a boiling pot before sinking like lead. There was some that would sink like straw, some that sank like lead. The ones that were very, very wicked, they sank like straw. So they were tormented in this boiling water. Those that were not so wicked, they went like lead, says the Yalkut Shemoni. In the parsha, we have two other things. We have the mun, the most beautiful thing, the mun, right? We have the beautiful mun, and we have the Milchama of Amalek, So let's discuss the mun for a minute. What was the quality of this food of the mun? So the Yalkut Shemoni teaches that the mun contained every flavor in the world. Whatever a person imagined or desired while eating it, it tasted like that. Whether you wanted a piece of honey cake, whether you wanted a gourmet meal, that's what it tasted like. And there was zero waste. We didn't have to use the restrooms. There was no facilities. One of the greatest miracles of the mun was that it was absorbed entirely into our limbs. It was absorbed totally into our limbs. And our bodily functions associated with that. We didn't have no waste. Making us people like angels, because the mun is angelic food. Before the mun fell, a north wind would blow to sweep the desert floor. Then a layer of dew fell. Then the mun, and then another layer of dew. It is like a box keeping the food fresh and fragrant. That's why on Shabbos, by the way, we have the idea, so everybody has a challah board, to some extent, right? Some kind of challah board, a plate, a challah board, right? And you put your challah on the plate, on the challah board, and you put a cover over it. So we know we cover it because we don't want the challahs to be embarrassed when we make kiddush, so we cover the challahs. But it's much deeper than that. On Shabbos, we got lechem mishnah. We got a double portion. That's why we use 2 challahs on Shabbos. And we use the challah board because that was the first, the northerly wind came, swept it blew away all the dust from the ocean, from the sea, the desert. Then the dew fell. That's the challah board. You put the challahs on the challah board, that's the mun. And then you put the cover over it, and that's how the mun fell every time. So beautiful. So that's what we do with our challah. So we do the same thing. We do that on Shabbos specifically. Okay. Now, the mun there was a spiritual GPS, right? They had GPS back then too. We said we had the Iron Dome. We had a GPS also. And the mun was a barometer for a person to know where they were in their Yiddishkeit. Where were they holding spiritually? How were they hit? If the person was a tzaddik, he found the mun staying right in front of his door, of his tent. The average person had to go to the edge of the camp to gather it. A Rasha had to travel far into the desert to find this portion. Teaching it's amazing how Kodesh Baruch Hu shows that their sustenance is directly tied to the closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's how our sustenance is. The closer we are to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the more we put an emphasis on our mitzvahs, our ma'asim tovim, our limud ha'torah, our isbodedus, talking to the Rebbeinu Sheleimah, and we make HaKadosh Baruch Hu important, the more we do that, watch, you'll have more parnasa. It's not because you work harder. I know the Western culture tells you the harder you work, the more money you make. Nonsense. The mun teaches us contrary to that. Okay, it's getting a little late. So let's talk about Amalek. Amazing. Amalek is, it's just so remarkable how Amalek says, Reishis Goyim Amalek. And it said, we're the first. We're the first. Okay, the war with Amalek. Amalek is described by the Yalkut as a cold shower of history. What does that mean? Why did Amalek come? He gives a parable. A father carries his son on his shoulders and provides everything for the son. But the son asks, where is my father? The father has him on his shoulders. And he's giving him everything he needs. And the son's looking, where's my father? He's carrying him. Can't see his father because he's on top. Where's my father? The father, of course, gets frustrated because he lacks the recognition of his son. His son doesn't recognize him. And he drops his son, and a dog bites him. Klal Yisrael asks, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu among us or not? Immediately, right then there, Amalek, the dog, arrived. Doubting Hashem's presence creates the opening for the enemy. We have to today, more than ever, Strengthen our emunah, Kodesh Baruch Hu. Strengthen our emunah. Where we have enemies from all over in every country, wherever we go. Have emunah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will carry you. Just recognize Him. Recognize it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So He doesn't have to drop us and the dog doesn't have to bite us. Yalkut goes on to explain that the nations of the world were all terrified of Klal Yisrael. They were all terrified of Klal Yisrael. Why? They saw how HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us. No one could ever deal with Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the world power. Mitzrayim was the world power. Could you imagine today, take Russia, the United States, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make the makis with them. Mitzvah Hashem. And seshmeta them. Mamash. Well, they are getting it right now. I mean, take a look how cold it is everywhere. Look at these things that happen in the world. Look at the temperatures. Look at the flooding. Look at everything that's going on. Everyone was scared of Klal Yisrael. But Amalek came, and the example is, if there's a very hot water, hot bath, a hot pool, the first guy goes in, then everyone will go in. He went in, I can go in. The first one's hard to go in. But once the first one goes in, they can all go in. Why? Because he went in. That's what Amalek did. Amalek did the same exact thing. Amalek went in first, and because they went in first, all the other nations, even today, Ad Hayom, start and cheper Klal Yisrael. The Torah tells us that when Moshe raised his hands, Klal Yisrael was winning the war with Amalek. And the Yalkut asked, did Moshe's hands win a war? Of course not. When the people looked up and they subjugated their hearts to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then they won. This is the lesson that we have to take. This is the lesson. It's not our might. It's all the Yeshuas come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us you have to remember Amalek. Zechivas Amalek, you have to remember Amalek. Because this is how our salvation. This is our salvation. The Mitzvah Hashem. Amalek is a descendant of Esav. He was the Einikel of Esav. Amalek represents atheism. The world is plagued with atheism today. The opposite of that is Yiras Hashem. The Torah introduces us the first time this week about Yeshua. It's the first time he's introduced, especially chosen because he never left Moshe Rabbeinu, which he never stopped learning Torah. I want to wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos, and remember, connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's where the Yeshua is. And I wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos, and you should have a wonderful, feel the lechtigkeit of Shabbos. And remember, the great miracle of the man, when you set up your challah board, as the northerly wind cleaned the table, or put the challah board down, put the beautiful challah on top of the challah board, cover it, and that's the way the month was. Everyone, kol tuv.